Good evening. The regular meeting of the Independent School District 279 School Board is called to order at 6 p.m. on September 24th, 2024. This regular business meeting of the Osseo School Board is being conducted in the boardroom of the Educational Service Center. The meeting can be monitored electronically by streaming online from the district website. An archived recording of tonight's meeting will also be available on the district website. Seated in front of you tonight, from my left to your right, is Director Thomas Brooks, Director Heather Douglas, Director Tanya Prince, myself, Jackie Mosqueda Jones, Director Sarah Mitchell, and Director Tamara Grady. Also present in the boardroom is Superintendent Dr. Heil and members of the Superintendent's Cabinet. We are so happy to have our student school board representatives for the 24-25 school year join us this evening. We'll be introducing them shortly. Those of you who can, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and Director Mitchell, will you please lead? Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Board members, are there any additions to the agenda? Seeing none, is there a motion to accept the agenda as written?
So moved.
All right, motion by Director Douglas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Director Mitchell. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. The 2024-2025 school year is our fourth year of having student school board representatives, and we're very pleased to welcome this year's exemplary representatives from Park Center Senior High, Osseo Senior High School, Maple Grove Senior High School, and 279 online. Dr. Heil, will you please start us off on the introductions?
Yes, thank you, Chair Mosqueda Jones. I am honored to welcome this evening our three amazing scholars seated here today this evening as our student board representatives for the 2024-25 school year. Our Maple Grove Senior High representative, Gavin, isn't able to be here this evening, as well as Antoinette, who goes to Osseo Senior High. So formal introductions will be done in a moment by Ms. Amy Tollefson, our district level principal and mentor for our student board reps. But first, I want to thank each of you so much for your commitment to serve in this capacity. Your voices are truly valued, and of course, we look forward to your reports and insights throughout the year. So Amy, please go ahead and do your introductions.
Thank you, Superintendent Dr. Heil. I am thrilled to be here today, and I have the fortune of working with our student board reps, and I can tell you that we had many amazing applicants for this opportunity in the spring, and it's always really difficult because we could have so many students here sharing their perspective and experience. However, we do identify one from each school, so I am going to invite Naomi Cooper-Greer to share her report first.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Naomi Cooper-Greer, and I represent Park Center. I wanted to join this committee for the people who don't have a voice or who feel like their thoughts and opinions aren't being heard. I also love leadership opportunities, so this is the right place for me. Moving on, this is officially the first month of the school year. So all of our teachers have been doing an outstanding job helping kids and students get back into the groove of school. Side note, I'd also like to give a thanks to Link crew members and other leaders around the school who help incoming freshmen and new students at our new school, making them feel welcomed and at home at our great big pirate ship. The first week of school was an adjustment for everybody, readjusting sleep schedules to better fit with the school schedules instead of waking up at 12 in the afternoon. Along with being back in a learning environment, everybody was just excited for the first day of school. The lunchroom was filled with people and positivity. Like, I've never seen so many people stand up. But it felt very comfortable, and it was a nice place to be in. Homecoming has been a big topic for many people around the school. Some wondering if they're going to attend the dance, others wondering if they're going to go to the football game, some wondering if our team is going to win. But nonetheless, there's a good amount of excitement and anticipation surrounding the homecoming dance and game that is coming up within the next few days. I believe that our culture and our student body at Park Center could use a little bit of work. There has been a lot of discussion about how to get people at Park Center more involved in the activities, more importantly, the activities that don't get a lot of attention. Whether it be sitting in the stands or more participation within the activity itself, I believe that this is taking a step in the right direction for Park Center. More importantly, it makes our students feel like a family rather than split up groups of cliques and people who just see each other on a daily basis. And I can't wait to see what this does to our school environment. Finally, I just can't wait to see how much our school changes and how much our student body flourishes from these changes. I just want this to be one of the greatest years for Park Center. And thank you all so much for having me here. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Naomi. Reason.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Reason Atkins, once again representing 279 Online. I wanted to represent my school because I'm a very experienced student at 279 Online, or for someone who has been attending as long as I have Distant Learning Academy. I believe it's very important to have insights on this district's virtual school, seeing as though it can be forgotten about sometimes or have little to no recognition at all. Not only am I speaking from my own point of view, I'm also speaking for our entire virtual community. So thank you once again for allowing me to represent and inform you for 279 Online's 2024 to 2025 school year. September is basically already over. September is basically already over. So as scholars kiss away the 21st night, we're all grooving away into October. 279 Online has had a fresh breath this year as we welcome new staff and new scholars. The student leadership team is still under development with future plans they have underway. High school students are putting their thoughts and efforts into creating their first ever in-person prom event for next year. Conferences will be held on October 1st where parents and guardians will be able to meet with their students' teachers for an opportunity to review their performance during the school year. With these conferences, teachers can evaluate on what areas a scholar could improve on and what areas a scholar is succeeding in. Other than that, students have been getting back into their normal schedules and habits. Attendance has become a lot more serious this year as we have swapped out our attendance quizzes for live attendance in class every day. We also have a new system in place for our Wow Wednesday blocks. Students can sign up for teachers, and teachers can request students as well to come and see them. As usual, we have our homework support and homework help classes, and we also have more fun classes like games, social block, and gardening tips. 279 Online has a lot of under wraps for this amazing school year, and I am once again honored to be able to share our monthly update with you guys. I hope everyone has had an amazing start to the beginning of their school year as we grow into the year of 2025. Thank you.
Thank you so much to our student board reps, and we look forward to the rest of the year with having your voices be present.
We're so happy that you're here. Thank you. And welcome back, Reason. Thanks, Naomi. Okay. At each business meeting of the school board, going forward, our student school board representatives will give a report from their respective schools, and board members will ask the representatives if they have any input on future meeting agenda items. So welcome to you all. And again, our representative from Osseo, Antoinette Brown, and our representative from Maple Grove, Gavin Chibika, are not able to make it tonight, but we hope to see them next month. The next standing agenda item is recognitions. We are so very happy and proud to highlight the accomplishments that are on this evening's agenda. We have 4 recognitions. I'll be calling each coach to step up to present their amazing scholars. After each recognition, we will be taking a group photo, so don't run away. At this time, I ask that board members, Superintendent Dr. Heil, and student board representatives please move to stand in front of this dais so that we can offer our congratulations. Okay, so at this, whoa, that was really loud. Coach Randy Glassman, will you please step up to the podium to introduce the 2024 state champion Maple Grove Senior High girls golf team?
Thank you very much. And we're happy to be back here as back-to-back winners of the state championship. We'll see what next year may have in store for us. Perhaps you saw it in the newspaper, but for the 25-26 school year, Maple Grove Golf at least, will be participating in the Lake Conference. So we're going to see a lot of different teams that we know nothing about. There was probably going to be a little more driving to get to Eden Prairie and Edina and Buffalo and all of the teams that are part of that. So I'll have to do some scouting this season maybe to see what we have in store for us. This year's state tournament was fantastic. The girls just left everybody else behind, and we had outstanding play both days, and everyone was able to help the team on one day or the other, or in some cases both days. So it certainly was a team effort. But leading up to that, we had just an amazing season. We had 9 conference matches. We were victorious in all of those. We've won every invitational that we went to. We won the conference championship by a lot of strokes that advanced us to the state tournament. And then, of course, getting to Bunker Hills in the state tournament, we just hope I'll be back here next year for a three-peat, and we'll see how that works out. We lost 2 seniors from last year, Mia Morton and McKenna Hogan, both of which are at college right now. McKenna is in Nebraska, going into a golf program, not playing on the team, I guess, but some type of a golf program. And Mia Morton is on the golf team at St. Thomas University. And if you ever watch Facebook, and which I'm sure a lot of you do, Mia's been very active with her team and shooting some fantastic scores, so I think she's going to do just fine there. I'd like to have the girls come forward now, and I'm just going to go in the order that they handed me the cards. So if you want to all come up and kind of line up at the end there. And first of all, we have 3 sophomores this year. And Peyton Anderson, congratulations. Monica Hendrickson. Another sophomore, Emerson Soderberg. Junior, Abby Stendhal. And finally, we have Isabella Onloff, that we did not have a recognition certificate ready for her tonight, but she will get one. And congratulations for I guess that's it.
All right.
Are you going to go back up there?
professionals.
Our next recognition is the 2024 Track and Field State Championship champion in pole vault.
Won't do it.
Maple Grove Senior High School's Henry White. Coach Sean Heaton, please step up to the podium to share Henry's accomplishment. Go, Henry.
All right, hello everybody, and thanks for having us. So, talk a little bit about Henry. So, I've been coaching Henry in a number of different sports for a number of years. My first memory of Henry would have been when he was in either 7th or 8th grade, I can't remember, on the Nordic ski team, skiing and refusing to put his hands into the pole straps. And I don't think he ever did. I can't remember one time he ever did. So at that time, was I thinking that Henry might be a state champion one day? At that time, I didn't even know he was a pole vaulter. So no, it didn't come to mind. But this past year, which was his junior year, Henry's now a senior, he hit the ground running, came in right away, saying things about setting school records and winning state titles and doing these types of things. And you could tell that there was an air of seriousness to it and that he was going to back that up with some hard work, and that was the case. So it was a school record setting season. Many great meets led to an eventual school record, and then a couple, iterations upon that school record. And so one fun thing about that was that Henry's coach, so I'm the head coach, but his pole vault coach, Andrew Norman, was actually the previous school record holder, so he was able to take that record from Andrew en route to a state title. And so this was our first ever pole vault state title for Maple Grove, so a really special moment on quite a windy day. And so it was actually the case where they pivoted to move the event indoors for the day, which is not something pole vaulters have, and especially at the high school level, have the opportunity to do a lot of. And so Henry was able to pivot, not be affected by a change in venue at the last minute, and able to perform on the day. So Henry won the state title with a vault of 15 feet and 3 inches, which is currently a school record, but immediately after, maybe even during, I know he was talking about more records and what to come next, being that he does have one more year. So it was a really great time to be around all of the hard work and success this year. So Henry, if you want to come forward, I'll give you guys your...
Did you get a picture, Mom? Yep. Congratulations.
So many hardworking scholars. And the next recognition is Osseo Senior High School's Linton McPherson for the 2nd place state title in the 110 hurdles. Coach John Runquist, will you please introduce Linton?
Good evening, Dr. Heil, school board, cabinet, and the Osseo area schools. I am Coach Runquist. I am one of the head coaches for Osseo Track and Field, teamed up with Coach Andy Clares, who is not able to make it tonight. But we've got two groups that we're going to recognize. So I did want to hand this off to for Linton for his primary coach to go ahead and give a nice little spiel on him.
Hello, I am Coach Bodine, and I have the honor of representing Linton McPherson, who cannot be here tonight. He has continuing his education and his track career at Minnesota State Mankato, so he's having a great time with all that, and he's going to represent 279 well. So I'm excited about that. But Linton, when he was a sophomore, qualified for state in the same event, 110 hurdles, got dead last. He was the last guy. He contemplated quitting track, like, what am I doing here? I didn't know all this was going on in his head, but the next year he came back and he goes, I am not doing that again. Came back, got third in state. So his senior year, he's like, I'm doing better. And he came back and got second in state, broke his school record. And if anyone's ever done hurdles, they're not for the squeamish, because you are going to fall and you're going to get up. And he's a great example of the hard work. And I really do believe he does the Osseo excellence in everything he does. So I'm very proud of Linton.
Thank you, Coach. I'm going to go ahead and cover the boys 4x8 who ended up taking third at the state meet in June. With this group of boys, there was 18 seasons of track and field that for the four primary guys that ran at state, seasons I've had with them. So it's been just a special journey. That's one of the things I love about track and field. A lot of times you get these kids when they're in 6th or 7th grade, and you get 6 seasons with them. And I will say some of these kids, in maturity, the stories behind the scenes, it just makes it all the more special. And for them to go ahead and take third to wrap up their careers was a special thing. And they also broke a school record at Osseo at sections, which had stood for about 40 years. And that was something very special with a 7:53. And so for this group of boys, we had Kate Sandvik, who just graduated. He is not able to make it as he's out at South Dakota State, continuing running there for cross country and track and field for the Jackrabbits. Earl Peter also graduated out, and he is currently at basic training down with the U.S. Air Force, and then he is set to, he'll be working his way later in the next year over to the University of Arizona, Tucson, to continue his education. And then our primary alternates was Sean Lakeman, who also graduated. He's out at Colorado State. And then we got Eli Berg, who is currently, he's a 10th grader here with us with Osseo yet. But we do have 2 that are present, and we've got I guess it would be, technically you are my son. You're also one of my athletes. So we do have, we've got Quimman Runquist, who is a senior, who played a key part. And also current junior, Ben Sandvik, who also is here to go ahead and take this recognition. So just an honor to represent District 279. Good things are happening, and we just appreciate your support as a district to make these opportunities come to life for these children, students, and athletes. Thank you.
I once was an athlete, maybe not anymore, but right here, I was squeezing right by you. Perfect.
All right, big smiles. 1, 2, 3. Perfect. Anyone else?
Okay, one more hand for those hardworking students. Okay, our presentation this evening is the preliminary fiscal year 2024 financial report to be shared by John Morstead, Executive Director of Finance and Operations, and Kelly Benusa, Director of Business Services.
Hi.
Hi.
As you will see, Director Benusa was unable to make it this evening. She is not feeling well, but I will take this on and roll right through it for you. So thank you and good evening, Chair Mosqueda Jones, board members, Superintendent Dr. Heil. Tonight we're presenting preliminary year-end financial results for the fiscal year that ended on June 30th of 2024. The district is required annually to complete an independent audit and submit our financial reports by December 31st. We begin this process in late June, and the results are presented to the school board by our independent audit firm for final approval in November. By September, the process provides preliminary year-end financial reports to assist in budget development for the upcoming fiscal year. Although our numbers are not final, we don't anticipate any significant changes. I'd like to start by thanking Kelly Benusa and the entire business services team for their efforts during this process. Would especially like to recognize Mike Hewler, Assistant Director of Business Services, Michelle Larson, Coordinator of Business Services, and Liz Lanto, District Controller. All four of these individuals are incredibly instrumental in ensuring that our audit is performed at the very highest level of expectation, which they have consistently exceeded year over year. The school board has before them a memo along with 3 attached exhibits which summarize the financial results. The first being discussed is the general fund. This fund includes the primary operations of the district in providing educational services for students from pre-K through grade 12 and includes transportation. The Exhibit 1 shows the general fund revenue and expenditure budget variance. The combined variance was a positive 1.57, which is under our planned benchmark of 2%. So here's a quick look at Exhibit 1 showing the actual results in comparison with the budget amounts, and we're going to go through a few of the highlights here. The general operating revenues were more than budgeted by approximately 1.3 million, or a little under 0.5%. So always good when your revenue comes in higher than you thought. Tax collections decreased by about $535,000 from budgeted amounts, meaning we collected less taxes than we anticipated. This is a sign of increasing financial stress for taxpayers, so something we want to keep an eye on over time. Investment earnings were more than we budgeted due to the improved interest rates by a little over $400,000. General education aid was more than was our budgeted amounts. The actual students served were 62 more adjusted pupil units and 14 less extended time pupil units from previous estimates at the mid-year. Total adjusted pupil units for the year was 22,578 kids. Special education increased from budget amounts, combination of increased current year revenue that was more than anticipated based on formula calculations provided by the Minnesota Department of Ed, and partially offset by prior year over accrual. Special education is a difficult one to peg down, so we accrue and kind of rides a little bit of a roller coaster year over year, so this one happened to be a little bit down and the year prior was a little bit up, so it goes back and forth. Also, the desegregation transportation increased by $360,000 from our budgeted amounts. That this is a category that is refunded at 100% for us, but it's on a year lag. So typically in the first year, we have to front the funds for it and then we'll get them back over time. Third-party billings for medical assistance decreased by about $180,000 from budgeted amounts. This is an area we need to be monitoring during the current fiscal year. Overall revenues were, again, more than budget by 1.3 million, or a positive 0.44% when compared to actual. As we move to expenditures, salaries is the first category. They were under budget by almost $2 million, or 1.1%. That variance is due to several factors. First, 1.5 million in savings from open positions, overtime, casual assignments, unused budget capacity, and contract settlements. And also $437,000 in adjustments for grants. The variance for employee benefits can be attributed to four main areas. First, employee health insurance and HSA contributions were about $500,000 less than projected. Second, FICA was about $94,000 under budget. Third, workers' comp at $88,000 under budget. And finally, retiree HRA contributions were $73,000 less than anticipated. The purchase services expenditures were $4.2 million under budget. Transportation, contracted services, and snow removal were under budget by $1,332,000 and $602,000 respectively. We really didn't have much snow last year, so thank you. Transportation actual costs were lower due to several factors, including savings for route consolidation and adjustments to Type 3 transportation and other routing solutions, along with propane fuel rebates. Our utilities were under budget in several areas. Natural gas by $602,000, less than budget capacity, and electricity was about $474,000 under budget. Other purchase services were under budget by $1,037,000. These fall into three main areas. Consulting and professional services under budget by $477,000, primarily due to cost containment and management of staff. Tuition paid to districts and PSEO paid to colleges was $431,000 under budget, and student resource officers, or SROs, were under budget by $141,000 due to the inability to contract for services. Lastly, repairs were under budget by about $129,000 due to cost containment measures, again, by management staff. In the supplies, capital, and other expenditures category, we were under budget by $990,000. General instructional supplies was the majority of this at $926,000. Again, credit is due to cost containment by management and staff at the buildings. They're really what is controlling this number. New for fiscal year '24 was curriculum capacity of $1.5 million, which was $461,000 underspent, which is included in this item. Overall, a positive variance of almost $8 million, or 2.75%, was achieved when comparing actual expenditures with budgeted amounts. We're going to move to Exhibit 2, which is the General Fund Financial Summary. The district's planning benchmark is that actual revenue and expenditures be within 2% of our budgeted totals. The district size operations is a total of just under $600 million when you add revenue and expenses together. And the district's procedures are to analyze our revenue and expenditure budgets and revise to adopted budgets to try to get as close as we possibly can. Being within 2% is a lofty goal, and we've been able to achieve it multiple years in a row. Most of our benchmark districts run a range of 2 to 4%. So we are trying to run in the 0 to 2 on purpose. Again, I will give that credit to our financial staff that are excellent and do just a great job of not only estimating but staying on top of it throughout the year. So for fiscal '24, our net revenue expenditure variance was $9.3 million, or 1.57%. Okay, so now last exhibit is the fund balance summary for all funds. Don't be shocked by this number, I can explain it. Overall, the fund balance for all funds, as shown at the bottom of Exhibit 3, increased from the prior year amount of $138 million to $410 million on June 30th of 2024, a combined increase of $272 million. We'll go through the funds to kind of explain this. The general fund in blue increased in fund balance by $24.6 million, which includes non-operating funds like grants, gifts, and student activities. Capital expenditure land proceeds fund, which is the yellow fund here, decreased in fund balance by almost $2.1 million. The fund balance of almost $5.7 million is restricted by state statutes for facilities, equipment, textbook, technology, and long-term facility maintenance. The Food and Nutrition Services Fund increased its fund balance to almost $5.8 million, or 34% of annual expenditures. We will continue utilizing these resources to increase the efficiency and effectiveness of operations through future capital improvements within food service. Community Service Fund in green decreased fund balance by just over $300,000 to $6 million, or 32% of expenditures. Under state law, all revenue and fund balance are reserved for community education programs. And finally, the big one, building construction fund balance increased by $240.6 million. The increase is due to the issuance of $238.35 million in general obligations school building bonds and facilities maintenance bonds series 2024A, which was from the voter-approved building projects and board-approved long-term facility maintenance projects. And also the $21 million spend down of current and prior bond issuances for building projects and LTFM projects already in process. The debt service fund balance increased by $11.3 million. Debt service fund revenue and expenditures represent the amounts necessary to meet our principal and interest payment schedules associated with the long-term debt of the district. So this is a familiar slide you've seen before. This is our one-page, high-level, 5-year projection for the general fund. I'm gonna break it into its 3 components just to make it a little easier to see. The top section is revenue and expenditures, differences in fund balance, the fund balance percentage for a 7-year window that begins with actual in fiscal 23 and 24, adopted for fiscal 25, and projections for 26 through 29. You would typically see some sort of operational adjustments right underneath the chart, if needed. Assumptions, and I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. The assumptions section shows also our revenue and expenditure assumptions that we're using in the 26 through 29 projections. The next section shows the budgeted projection for revenues in blue and expenditures in red. Trend lines in the same colors show the general trajectory of each of these items. As you can see, expenditures are projected to outpace revenues beginning in 2025 and continuing. The final section is a look at fund balance projection for the same overall time periods. The green bars represent our actual and projected fund balances for each year. The orange bar shows the minimum required fund balance of 5% as set in board policy. And again, trend lines show the trajectory of the fund balance related to the minimum. As you can see, fund balance is projected to start to decline in 25, and we'll need to monitor our financial projections in order to maintain the board required minimum fund balance of 5% in the future. Under this model, we're not currently planning any operational reductions through 2029. However, as we learn more about our tactics for revenues and expenditures coming in, like contracts for services, and our settlements for our bargain groups, as soon as we know that information and can include it, we will actually add it to and update this chart. Okay, next steps. In summary, the year-end results are considerably better than we anticipated due to several factors, including the continued efforts, again, of both staff and administration. These combined efforts have reduced the need for future budget reductions through 2029 based on our current projections. The fiscal 24 financial results will be incorporated into the long-range financial planning process as designed. As usual, the board will be providing direction to take action in 3 different fiscal years over the next few months. This action will be impacted by a positive year-end results from this current fiscal 24 report. First, on November 12th, we will continue the formal fiscal 26 budget planning process at the board's work session. These year-end results will be incorporated into that LRFP process. Second, auditors will be presenting the final fiscal 28 audit report on November 19th at the school board meeting. And lastly, these results will be utilized in the fiscal 25 mid-year budget update and brought forward for approval to the board on February 25th. Thank you, and I will turn it back to Chair Mosqueda Jones for any comments or questions.
Thank you so much. Board members, are there any questions or comments?
You mentioned within the 2%, that's just phenomenal. And I know that we look at the numbers regularly throughout the year. Our audit reports are always fantastic. So a lot of appreciation to you and the finance department as well. I think for the community members who see all of this detail, I think it's great that we adjust at mid-year. So we don't drop every dollar to the bottom line. We do look at mid-year. We do make adjustments where we need to. But hopefully this demonstrates that as a district and as a board, the fiscal responsibility to ensuring that we do drop those budget numbers, that we're not needlessly redeploying them, because we're looking at this from a long-term perspective, year over year over year. So thank you for the presentation, and phenomenal as always.
Thank you.
And again, I want to thank our financial department. I'm in another school district, and there are a lot of school districts that are cutting, and we do not have to do that here in Osseo, so thank you
Yeah,
again.
we're very fortunate, so thanks to everyone who makes that happen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, the next agenda item is the audience opportunity to address the school board. Before sharing some guidelines for audience participation, I'd like to remind us all that everyone here this evening, regardless of their point of view on matters before the board, have the best interests of our scholars in mind. We want our children to care about each other, even when there's disagreement. We strive to be one community, and in so doing, decorum matters in this public space. Since this is election season, we would like to remind everyone that this is not the forum for campaigning. We need to concentrate on our role as a governance body and champions for our scholars and families. Speakers will be called to the podium in this order: student, parent, staff, community, and others. When I call your name, please come to the microphone and state your name, the topic, and whether or not you are a district resident. Please keep your comments to 3 minutes and address the entire board. That means we're not addressing an individual board member or the audience verbally or with posters or literature. The board and audience will listen and not respond back at this time. If you'd like someone to follow up with you on your questions or comments, please let the board secretary Sherry know. Comments and interactions between board members and the public are expected to be respectful, courteous, professional, and civil, and for the good of our community, personnel concerns should be directed to individuals in the following order: building principal, executive director of human resources, assistant superintendent, superintendent, and finally in writing to the school board. I just want to thank you for your cooperation and for your advocacy of scholars. Regardless of our viewpoint, we know that everyone here is advocating for our scholars. We continue to lead with our mission to inspire and prepare each and every scholar with the confidence, courage, and competence to achieve their dreams, contribute to community, and engage in a lifetime of learning. And with that, our first speaker is Natalie Sonic.
Good evening, my name is Natalie Sonic. I have a student in the district, and I'm here to express my concerns regarding the failed leadership of the school board. Our district website states our goal is to help each student graduate with confidence, courage, and competence. Yet 35% of our students meet state standards in reading, 27% in science, 27% in math. This is a failure of the school board and a sign that you have not been placing education as your main goal. You say that the safety of our children is your highest priority, yet a year ago, 3 of you voted to limit the role of our safety resource officers in our school, which then triggered the temporary removal of the SROs from our schools for months. This done even after the local law enforcement officer spoke directly to you regarding the concerns with this change. In the recent school shooting in Georgia, the local paper indicated that the hero in stopping the shooter was a safety resource officer. You say that every voice is important and you want freedom to read. Yet when a concerned parent or community member attempts to read excerpts from a book found in one of our libraries, they are censored from reading it because the content is too sensitive for young listeners. Or when a page is shown of one of these same books, suddenly new rules are put into place to censor parents from community members from seeing any content of these books. So let me get that straight. That isn't censorship. You tell that the book is fine for our students, but not for the people sitting in these board meetings. That's hypocrisy. You tell people with concerns coming forward with the books that their concerns are strictly because it's LGBTQ themed. The 5 that I'm aware of are not all LGBTQ themed. There's a national organization, Gays Against Groomers, which has over 800,000 followers and have spoken at many school board meetings regarding these exact books. One of their posts that they had on a social media site says, Yes, we're advocating for the removal of inappropriate books from school libraries. Kids should explore curiosity, sexuality naturally at their own pace, not through explicit content in schools. Stop sexualizing children. You say that you want teachers to have the freedom to teach, yet I've heard teachers come here and express that they want to be allowed to focus their teaching strictly on core subjects of expertise, and yet their voices are dismissed. That is not freedom to teach. Continue with the same theme, that every voice should be heard. 3 individuals from the school board recently attended a policy meeting which
30
reviewed the
seconds
policy
remaining.
652, the right to challenge a book. One member of the committee made the recommendations to strike members from the policy, community members from the policy. This restriction makes a clear statement that if you're a community member without a student in the district, your voice does not matter unless there is a referendum that needs to be passed, which entails the needing your vote and your money. It is clear we are in need of a new leadership. Leaders who will empower the voice of the family, ensure our children's safety, and will put the focus back on where it needs to be, back onto education. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalie. Julie Smith?
Hi, my name is Julie Smith. I'm a community member who truly cares about the safety and mental health of our students. I don't want to be here, but I think people should know what recently happened. A school board member, a district council, and a coordinator of media tried to make my voice null and void by editing policy 652 and removing the ability for community members to voice concern over what is being taught and offered in schools. Why? By the way, this is illegal according to the 2023 Minnesota Statute 120B.11, subdivision 3. It states that community members must be included in district advisory committees. My journey in this began well over a year ago when I found out that there were sexually explicit and pornographic materials being offered to our students. I was shocked. I thought that only happened somewhere else. I started reaching out in September 2023 to let our once trusted officials know so that they could correct this situation. I reached out to principals, the coordinator of digital instructional media, and the board. I kept getting the runaround. Everyone was pointing to somebody else. I let the board know the process to review materials in the school was cumbersome and not functional. I thought things would be corrected. They weren't. So on February 8th, 2024, I began the process to challenge a book in our schools because multiple parts were extremely sexually explicit and potentially harmful for immature youth. The school-level reevaluation committee, chosen by the principal and a coordinator of media, voted to keep offering this book to kids as young as 14, even though a number of the committee members admitted the book was dark, a hard read, depressing, etc. I can't remember all the exact quotes because yet another rule got added to the committee rules that said we couldn't record. Why? That makes a person wonder what is going on, and at this level, my trust was zero. I petitioned to challenge the book to the district level. I got blown off. Now I know why. They knew the changes they were pushing on policy 652B. They knew my youngest was a senior last year. I'm no longer a parent of a student. I'm just a tax-paying community member. I and others were written out with these edits of 652B. A few people and a board member were able to add this back in, but it was a fight. This was sneaky and underhanded. We don't want to ban books. We want safety measures to be taken and parents to know about these materials. We want our students safe and protected. I and others 30 seconds suggested that we remaining. rate books with topics typically not deemed appropriate for youth, like movies, TV shows, etc. We were told it would take too much time to protect our kids from very graphic materials, and of course, more of our taxpayer dollars. This process has been very disappointing. I think we can recover, but trust is hard to rebuild. I hope all of you work for less division and more teamwork so we can truly achieve the mission that is stated by this district. Thank you.
Thank you. LaDon Severn?
Good evening, LaDon Severin, district resident and concerned parent. My topic tonight is the intersection between a school board, autonomy, and the state. So right around the time that a few of us were challenging a handful of sexually explicit books here in our district, a ban on book banning came down from the state, and I found the timing fascinating. We've heard the cliche that the wheels of government move slowly, but the trifecta we have in St. Paul was very fast and swooped in with the bill, signed it into law May 17th and effective August 1st, as you already know. The law, known as the Access to Library Materials and Rights Protection, prevents public libraries and libraries in public schools from removing materials based on messages or opinions it conveys. I find it foolish that this same vague law was written to cover public libraries and school libraries, while other state statutes, such as 134.5, wisely recognize the vital difference between public and school libraries. And the wording of the second part almost tries to paint a caricature of us as extremists who want to ban messages and opinions. So I'd respectfully ask you as a board to reject this narrative. If we're going to be criticized for wanting to shelter children from sexually explicit content, so be it. It's an honor to be criticized for that. I was just thinking the other day, even dogs fiercely protect their young. And so who am I as a human being to not want to protect my young and their generation? Here's a quote from Governor Walz the day he signed the new law. He said, "Protecting access to books means protecting access to the knowledge that our kids deserve." And I cannot fathom defining the explicit content from the book that I challenged as knowledge that our kids deserve. His quote continues, "If you're banning books, you're always on the wrong side of history. I know some who have tried to equate our book challenges with the historic book banning in Hitler's Germany or the banning of books about apartheid in South Africa, etc., which is over the top. Even the book banning verbiage is over the top, as if we're banning certain titles from the entire planet. We are simply trying to remove sexually explicit content from school libraries, not county libraries, not Barnes & Noble. And by the way, Barnes & Noble has a big display right now for banned books, which I wouldn't have known about except one candidate who's trying for a seat on this board took a photo op in front of it. So if people must access books with erotic themes, there are plenty of places to find them. I don't recommend it because God says to set our minds on whatever is noble and praiseworthy.
30
But if
seconds
some
remaining.
have dark compulsion to do so, the items are sadly out there. Last two facts I want to mention about the new law. It mandates challenged books be reported up to the Minnesota Department of Education. So again, interesting tension between local boards in our state. A Minnesota State Librarian, Tamara Lee, clarified the new law, stating book banning is different from book challenging, as challenging books is still supported. Thanks.
Brett Stussy? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Britt Stussy, and I'm a district resident. I got involved in the book reevaluation process because I wanted to exercise my rights as a community member to call into question the appropriateness of explicit, obscene, and harmful materials in publicly funded school libraries. I got involved in the reevaluation process because I understood what it felt like to be a depressed and hopeless teenager. I was manipulated and coerced into believing casual sex would make me confident and solve all my problems. Believing this worldview led to me being raped at 17 and 23. That is why I'm here, because Osseo students deserve better. They deserve to have books in their libraries that do not promote and normalize subject matter such as casual sex, violence, suicide, bestiality, and instructions for accessing porn. Policy 652B serves as a means of accountability, the ability for parents and community members to audit the district to make sure funds are being spent on quality educational materials that empower and equip district students, to make sure tax dollars are not being misappropriated on instructional materials that are intended to manipulate and coerce students into harmful ideologies. It is the duty of district parents and community members to regularly audit materials in the library and draw attention to the school board in inappropriate books. One such example is Choke by Chuck Palahniuk at Maple Grove High School. Some of the major themes in this book are sex addiction and sexually deviant behavior. On the copyrights page, it reads, quote, "Portions of this book have previously appeared in Playboy. Chapter 20 appeared in the June 2000 Playboy, and Chapter 40 appeared in the January 2001 Playboy." From Chapter 40 on page 248, quote, "Another woman, 2 knuckles deep and disappearing into herself. A different man, his 4 inches dancing between his thumb and forefinger, primed and ready to cough up little white soldiers," end quote. On page 10, a woman spreads peanut butter on her vagina and has a dog lick it off. For those of you that are visual learners, Does this book, as stated by the Osseo mission, quote, inspire and prepare each and every scholar with the confidence, courage, and competence to achieve their dreams, end quote? Was this book a good use of taxpayer funds? Is it appropriate to have a book that appeared in a pornographic magazine available to high school students, the majority of whom are under 18? Policy 652B exists so parents and community members can ask questions like these to school board members in a public forum. Parents and community
30
members
seconds
deserve
remaining.
transparency. If the Osseo District and School Board believes these books serve a purpose, then they should defend their positions publicly. Most importantly, the district should work with parents and community members to put guardrails in place to protect impressionable young students from explicit, obscene, and harmful content. While some school board members are making this issue political and adversarial, I believe in partnership to work with the district in order to better serve students to help them achieve their dreams. Thank you for your time, and I look forward to our continued partnership.
Thank you. That was our last card, and the next agenda item is the superintendent's report. Dr. Heil?
Good evening, Chair Mosquito Jones and school board members. It's with pleasure that I welcome everyone to the 24-25 school year. I'm thrilled to report we are off to an exciting start to the academic year. Our students, both returning and our new students, have brought a renewed sense of energy back into the district and into our classrooms, and it's wonderful to witness the powerful interactions and positive interactions that are occurring across K through 12. We're excited to welcome a new cohort of students as well this year. I'm confident they'll quickly feel at home with us. And alongside that, we also are welcoming new staff members this year who we sure will make a positive impact on our babies or our scholars. We also have several existing staff members stepping into new positions, bringing in those fresh perspectives to their roles, and our team is looking stronger than ever, and I look forward to the year ahead with this outstanding group of educators. Today, I had the privilege of having the first meeting of the year with my Superintendent Student Advisory Group. This group of exceptional scholars, 22 of them, represent the voice of our high school students, and I was incredibly impressed today. Two of the ladies that was here today also sit on that committee. I was incredibly impressed with the level of engagement and motivation. We discussed a variety of topics, including changes they would like to see in the district and changes they would like to see in their schools. And they also provided us some valuable input for the new cell phone policy. You'll be quite interesting in what they had to say. It's probably the opposite of what you may be thinking. Their ideas and their insights were thoughtful, and they shared innovative steps that we can take to ensure that all of our scholars are set up for success, no matter what their pathway is when they leave Osseo area schools. This group will continue to serve as a critical advisory body, and I'm confident their contributions will lead to meaningful change in our district as well. So I'm excited for what this year holds and grateful for the dedication of our staff, the enthusiasm of our students, and always the support of our community, because we could not do it without you. So let's continue to work together to make Osseo area schools one community for all, where all voices are valued and heard. So thank you. So we're going to go into the regular report of the superintendent's report of points of pride for our district. Sharing these points, they contribute to the accomplishments of our mission, and our mission, which most people probably know, is to inspire and prepare each and every scholar with confidence, courage, and competence to achieve their dreams, contribute to the community, and to engage in a lifetime of learning. And so this evening, we do have with us members of our district cabinet to assist in sharing some examples of this from the last month.
In the area of achieving dreams, Superintendent Dr. Heil and staff across the district were excited to welcome back scholars to another great year of learning on the first day of school. We are dedicated to making Osseo area schools one community for all, where all voices are valued and heard. Students from across the district were recognized for their work at the Minnesota State Fair K-12 competition. The K-12 competition presents an annual exhibition of the work of students in kindergarten through grade 12. Students enter exhibits in 31 different categories. The works were displayed in the education building at the State Fair. Osseo Senior High School student Luke Scott, first in the 11th grade wheel thrown ceramics category, and Ty Swanson placed second in the 12th grade wheel thrown ceramics category. Maple Grove Senior High School student, recent graduate Madison Hills Camp, had her piece Nature's Fray receive a grand prize for the whole K-12 exhibition and a blue ribbon first place in its category. Recent graduate Sitigon K. O'Prasert received third place in its category for its work handmade teapot and cup. Osseo Education Center students Catherine Kellerman, Abraham Wallace, and William Hanvichit had their crop art displayed as well. Congratulations to Maple Grove Senior High School seniors Matthew Hoyt, Gabe Hockett, Samantha Leonards, and Shivani Rege for being named 2025 National Merit Scholarship semifinalists. These students were four of more than 16,000 semifinalists named nationally. On the first day of the new school year, CCX Media visited Northview Middle School with Superintendent Dr. Kim Heil to see the results from the from the school's summer renovation project, which brought flexible learning spaces and a new library media center to the school, along with other improvements and modernizations.
Before school started, many students and community members gathered to cheer on the Maple Grove Senior High and Osseo Senior High football teams in their season opener. In the area of contributing to community, on September 21st, the District 279 Foundation's 14th annual Reading is Fun 5K took place at Elm Creek Park Reserve. Nearly 300 community members registered for this year's family-friendly event and raised $13,000 to purchase learning resources for media centers in Osseo area schools. The event highlights included a stretching activity with music, a community gathering, a 1K, and 5K. In the area of lifelong learning, students from Ukraine recently visited Osseo area schools, meeting the students and teachers and experiencing a day at Maple Grove Senior High School. These international students were a part of You Lead program sponsored by the Global Synergy Group that are visiting the country for 4 weeks as part of a leadership program. The visiting students partnered with Link Crew leaders, attending their classes and lunch with them, as well as participating in a pep fest to celebrate the first week of school. Crestview Elementary will be celebrating 65 years this 24-25 school year. The year kicked off with a pep rally full of excitement and good cheer. This school year will be filled with opportunities to celebrate Crestview's past and present students and staff as they prepare for its repurposing. Go Cardinals!
Erin Bowe spends each day fostering a sense of community and belonging in her art classes at Maple Grove Senior High School. In recognition of her outstanding work, Bowe recently named Art Educators of Minnesota, or AIMS Art Educator of the Year. Bowe said, I truly feel like I found the perfect job for my personality and my values. Every day, I get to foster inclusion and belonging and create community. My extroverted self just loves chatting with people every day and just being around people and laughter, unquote. Staff members from sites across the district gathered before school started for a fantastic all-staff event. The day included food trucks, yard games, caricature artists, a mascot race, and a speech from Superintendent Dr. Kim Heil. And in the area of mission-driven employees, a few of our elementary school students sat down with the 6 new elementary school principals to introduce them to our district community. Please check out the videos on our website and social media pages to get to know our new principals.
Osseo area schools welcomed 167 new certified staff members this school year. These new staff members attended a new teacher workshop event at Park Center Senior High School on August 19th, which included information, resources and technology support offerings, lunch, and speeches from district leaders. We're so happy to have these new professionals on our team for the 2024-2025 school year. The Osseo area schools grounds crew was hard at work recently installing artificial turf in the Elm Creek Elementary School Gaga pit. Thanks for all you do for our students. In September, Minnesota School Boards Association is sponsoring Minnesota School Board Recognition Month. Public school boards have heart. to recognize school board members for their commitment to Minnesota's public school students. I'm going to turn it to Dr. Heil for some additional words.
Thank you, Brian. Historically, the Minnesota School Board Association had designated February of each school year as School Board Recognition Month. A change has been made to implement this year to recognize the school board members statewide in the month of September to coincide with the start of the school year. So this year's theme, as Brian has shared, is Public School Boards Have Heart. So the recognition is to build awareness and understanding of this vital elected school board members play in our society. Osseo Area Schools is joining other public school districts from across the state to celebrate School Board Recognition Month to honor our local board members for the commitment to our district and to our scholars. School boards, I don't have to say this, play a crucial role in shaping the future of our students and strengthening the bonds within our communities. Their mission goes beyond just setting policies. They're dedicated to improving student achievement and fostering community engagement that represents all of our stakeholders, creating a thriving environment for education. By setting a clear vision for the district, establishing strategies to achieve key goals, and holding the system accountable for progress, which they do if you don't know that, and they ensure every scholar has the opportunity to meet and exceed performance standards. The responsibility of guiding learners from pre-K through adulthood is monumental. School board service carries profound influence, impacting not only the future of our children, but also the quality of life in our communities. While many understand that significance of the board's work, fewer may realize the intense dedication that it requires. Board members spend countless hours preparing for meetings, engaging in work sessions, studying educational issues and laws, and listening to the voices of parents, staff, and the community. The work is relentless and ever present, but is done with passion and a deep commitment to make a lasting difference. In keeping with this year's theme, you're all receiving your iHeart ISD 279 Scholars Cookie as well as a motivational notebook. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, I thank each one of you for your service. We appreciate all that of your time and service you have committed to Osseo Area Schools. Congratulations.
Thank you. I think I can speak for all of us. It's an honor to be on the board with you.
Oh, thank you. That came back, okay, thank you. All right, for our next slide, we're just gonna wrap this up, just some small notes and reminders. Osseo Senior High will be celebrating its centennial anniversary this Friday, September 27th, before the school's homecoming football game. So alumni, former staff, and community members are all welcome to arrive at 3:30 p.m. And the school will have food trucks, yard games, student-led school tours from 3:30 to 5:30. Prior to the start of the game, alumni and past staff members will be lined up on the football field and recognized by their decade. I don't know if I want that or not. The homecoming game will then begin at 6 p.m. And also, just a reminder, we do need help for your school by filling out those educational benefits form. Even though schools have free and reduced lunch, we do need those forms filled out for other items here in the school district. So please visit our website to learn more. Tonight was the first night of 3 school preview nights for our Crestview families. They have the opportunity this evening to check out Edinbrook, and they also will be checking out Zanewood and Fair Oaks as they transferring school options for next fall. So if you remember, this change is due to Crestview being repurposed. A lot of communication has gone out to our impacted families, and our community is welcome to learn more at district279.org/repurposing. Also, a very important item we do want our community members to know is to be aware that our community engagement process has started for attendance boundary change process. Over the next several months, elementary and middle school attendance boundaries will be reviewed to determine needed changes. These adjustments will reassign elementary and middle schools for some of our households that are zoned to attend. So our community support is very important to us for building Better Future 2023 to help minimize as much as possible the impact of that change. So please make sure to take your time to provide feedback. Your voice is important on the attendance boundary considerations by October 9th. And that can also be found online at district279.org/boundaries. Thank you, and that concludes tonight's superintendent report. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next agenda item is school board reports. Director Brooks, do you have a report?
No school board report.
Director Douglas?
No, not tonight.
Director Prince.
Yeah, I have the 279 Board of Trustees met, which I'm a liaison to, not a trustee or voting member, but we had a review of the year-end financials. And for those that may not know all of the things that the foundation does, there's 3 big events. That was just mentioned, the 5K event, which was fun, and the lightning and rain cleared out just in time for it to be successful. So thank you to the 300 community members who signed up to run and participate and contribute and sponsor. We also have a night out, and that's every year in February, and that's a significant revenue driver. Again, all of the dollars go to supporting additional classroom experiences and experiences outside the classroom as well through grants. And then the investment in youth, and that's the May awards where we recognize students and staff across the entire district. So I just ask that the community keep your eye out for those things. Go to the 279 Foundation website to learn more. We also have a number of organizations and individuals who contribute directly with funding. And it's just very generous. I'm just looking from our reports everywhere from $1,000 contributors up to over 8,000 from different organizations that support the foundation. And then, of course, all of the employees in the district also have a giving campaign to support the foundation as well. So do go out there, take a look, see who the trustees are, because it's a very small group. It was just mentioned that it's a working board where the board members, the trustee members are also the volunteers. And there's also opportunities if you go to the website to volunteer for these different events as well. And already the planning and the activities and the construction for the night out is beginning. So check out the website, and if you want to help out for that event, register to be a volunteer. So thank you to our community for supporting our scholars with exceptional opportunities.
Thank you. And the date for the night out again is?
Brian, February.
First Friday in February.
First Friday in February.
Can we share the theme yet?
Yeah, Western team will try to raise over $50,000 for classroom grants in one night, so, yeah, sign up, look for
What kind of
registration.
thing?
What's that?
What kind? Western?
Western.
Yeehaw.
You have plenty of time to buy your cowboy
Yeah,
boots.
thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Director Mitchell, do you have a report?
Yeah, just we had the kickoff meeting for, also with Brian, he's a busy man with, for CPAC, our community education program. And I appreciate hearing from the variety of community members. We have some that have been many years, almost 20 years involved. And we had a good recap of some summer successes and collaborating priorities for the new year. So more on that to come.
Director Grady.
Nothing tonight.
Okay. At this time, I have 2 quick reports. With District 287, we approved several student policies that were reviewed by students and changed because of student input. And then we extended the superintendent's contract, and then there was introductions to new business leaders. At Northwest Suburban Integration School District, the main item from that meeting last Wednesday was the strategic plan and goals for that. So the next agenda item is the consent agenda. Board members, are there any items you would like to remove for separate consideration? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the consent agenda as printed?
So moved.
Moved by Director Brooks, second by Director Prince. Is there any discussion? Again, the consent agenda includes minutes of meetings and financial reports and school field trips, things like that. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Our first action item is the recommendation for approval of the 2024 Pay 2025 preliminary levy. Information will be shared by John Morstead again, Executive Director of Finance and Operations. So thank you. It's the John Show.
A little bit of the John Show. Okay, Thank you, Chair Mosqueda Jones. Again, board members and Superintendent Dr. Heil. Good evening. This evening we'll be asking for the board to approve the 2024 payable 2025 preliminary levy. State statute requires that the school board certify a preliminary levy limitation by September 30 of each year. The purpose of this is to provide information to Hennepin County auditors so the proposed tax statements can be prepared and mailed to taxpayers by November 24th. The final certification will take place at the December 17th, 2024 regular school board meeting after the truth and taxation hearing, which gives the school board an opportunity to review the levy prior to final certification and also the public to make comment. Legislature has authorized Minnesota school districts to levy and collect property taxes for specific elements of school funding. About 50% of the dollars levied are authorized through voter approval. The remainder of the levy is authorized by state statute as a mechanism to provide specific funding for student programs or operational expenses. This is a unique time of the year as the business services staff are currently working across 3 different fiscal years. We are wrapping up the closeout of the audit, which we spoke about earlier, and also actively working obviously on our current year, and then preliminary levy here is the start of the fiscal 26 budget. We'll now take a look at the preliminary levy. Now I will start with a caveat of the numbers that I have in front of you here are all wrong. And the reason they're wrong is the levy gets updated every single day, typically in September, and there was another levy run today, so we know this number's not quite right. I'm still gonna walk through it because we're really, really close. I think the run I saw today had us at 0.51%. But in general, most of our major categories are gonna be spot on. It just kind of highlights that the levy process is very, very complicated, especially for the Department of Ed to run and track everything. So it takes a lot of time, and just because we're on an approval on the 24th of September, they really need up towards close to the 30th of September to make sure that they have most everything correct. So a little bear with us, but this is pretty normal. So this information is also included in Exhibit A in the board materials that were provided. It summarizes the total levy changes from last year and then also the proposals for this year. So as of this one, which was yesterday's, $272,509 or 0.19%. Though, other than specific voter approval, there are 4 major ways that the local levy can change. First is through changes in state law. Second is pupil unit or specific population changes. Third is changing market value or tax capacity of the district property, which is an important factor for levies. Some levies are equalized, which means a portion of the funding formula is paid through state aid and the remainder is paid through the local levy. As the market value grows, these types of levies are designed to decrease the proportion of levies picked up by the state aid and increase the proportion picked up by local levy. The final way levies can change is when expenditures change. For those programs whose revenue is based on actual expenditures. When we levy, we do an estimation of those expenditures. This slide summarizes information in Exhibit C of the board materials. Again, the $272,000. I want to highlight net tax capacity. Net tax capacity in the district is growing by 2.6%. This is the number that we use to calculate our capital projects technology levy, which is taking this number and multiplying it by 4.7%. Referendum market value is a term that is essentially what you use to calculate the overall value of all the property in the district. So from last year to this year, we increased by about 1.5 billion or 6.17%. That is good news if you are a taxpayer because the pie that is our levy just got spread across another $1.5 billion worth of property, so your piece individually should be smaller. The next set of slides covers line items in the general fund levy. This is also in Exhibit B of the board materials. First column of the numbers represents the proposed pay 25 levy for each category. The next columns you can see the comparative dollar amounts for last year's levy and the change from year to year. The single largest line item in the levy is the voter-approved operating referendum. Several factors influence this. The formula is calculated based upon pupil numbers, The voter-approved formula also includes an inflationary factor, which for the 2026 school year is estimated at 2.43%. This brings the voter-approved operating referendum to about $2,177.21 per pupil. The decrease you see here is primarily due to the increase in market value of the district. Also in this line are prior year adjustments of negative $735,000 due to inflation adjustments and also adjusted student counts from the previous year. Local optional revenue, the board approves a levy. This is a board approved levy for $724 per pupil. This per pupil amount will increase in the manner much like the operating referendum. It's an equalized levy, so the state aid portion of this formula has declined with our increasing tax capacity. In our district, this levy is 100% covered by the local levy and there is no state aid. We're expecting an increase of about 118,000 or 0.7%, primarily due to changes in enrollment. Capital projects levy will increase as tax capacity rises. This again is a voter approved levy that is calculated as that percent of net tax capacity. Again, the current authorization was approved in November of 2022 at 4.701% of net tax capacity. So the increase from the previous year is 907,000 or 6.7%, and is a direct reflection of the increase in that net tax capacity and the increase in the number of value of the homes in the district. Operating capital levy is increasing as it's linked to our building age, which increases each year, and student enrollment. So you're looking at 224,000 there. This slide covers the next several lines of the general fund levy. I'm just going to highlight one item here being reemployment insurance. The legislature changed laws in 2023 to include summer unemployment. That first year, what the legislature did was gave a lump sum of $135 million to cover the costs for school districts, summer unemployment for staff that previously, hourly staff that weren't eligible that now are. The first year that cost our district about $850,000, which was again fully reimbursed by the state. This most recent summer, we saw our costs almost double to $1,570,000. It's expected that, and now the state's fiscal year catches a little bit of next June where this June's went to last year, but we're expecting that at the end of fiscal 25, without legislative changes, although Director Grady did mention to me this is already on the agenda, so it's great news. Without that 1.57 million would become the responsibility of the district's general fund to pick up that cost. So it becomes a pretty big piece that we need to account for unless there are legislative changes that pick it up. What you're seeing here, that $200,000, that's our estimated regular unemployment costs. Because the summer levy unemployment, we're not allowed to actually, the summer unemployment piece, we're not allowed to put on the levy. This slide covers the last several lines in the general fund levy, long-term facility maintenance being one of the biggest. Our LTFM line item includes the pay-as-you-go portion of LTFM funding, which provides part of the funding for the rolling 10-year deferred maintenance plans and projects. The pay-as-you-go levy is decreasing under this plan as we've shifted many of the expenditures to bond that you'll see in our debt service here shortly. It offsets there, so the large, almost $15 million decrease will be offset in the debt levy. Next, I want to highlight the building lease category. Among other leases that we have, this levy includes principal and interest payments for additions to buildings such as Rice Lake Elementary and some senior high additions, along with leases for activities and our portion of intermediate 287's leases. The negative amount includes adjustments as we reconcile estimated expenses with actual expenses in previous years. So again, the summary of the total general fund levy is a decrease of 14.6 million or negative 12.2%. Moving to community service. The primary change in this fund is increasing our estimation for school age care, as we are now fully staffed and can offer service to all residents with no wait lists. Nice job, Brian. And it also includes a little bit of previous year adjustments. Overall, this fund's levy is increasing by 214,000 or 7.7%. As you know, the vast majority of revenue for community service fund comes from fees for services associated with each individual program. Finally, we'll take a look at the debt service fund. The top line for regular debt service are the planned principal and interest payments for current debt. As mentioned previously, the increase here is offset by a decrease in the general fund as we issue LTFM bonds and reduce our pay-as-you-go LTFM levy. Debt excess, one thing to note on here too is we are required by law in our regular debt service to levy 105% of our principal and interest, just in case, as I mentioned in the previous presentation, we had a negative amount of tax collection. The 105% is meant to cover that in case our tax collection doesn't come in enough to cover our own debt, that we have a little bit of a backup. When we have extra, which routinely happens, that's called debt excess. So we give that back when we can. So this year we are giving back $808,000 and change, a little bit less than last year, just as how the payments came in, but we're able to return that additional amount back to our taxpayers. So that our total debt service levy is increasing by about 14.7 million. The percentage is kind of scary, but it's not that bad overall. So total proposed levy increase currently calculated at 272,000 or 0.19%. As I mentioned before, the update that I saw about an hour and a half ago is at 0.51%. We are aware of there still being 2 errors in that. So still working through that process, but that will lead us to kind of the next portion as we get to the action item. Just wanted to give you a quick timeline of how the levy process works. So MDE gives the first run of levy data to us. We start actually loading information in July and August for the state, and then we get the first output of information on September 6th. From there to the end of the month, we have 16 working days to make all corrections, update our information, and try to create the most accurate levy possible for the board to approve. Final step is on December 17th of 2024, following the Truth in Taxation hearing, which will include that opportunity for public comment. The school board would be asked to approve the final levy amounts for the taxes payable in 25. All right, so with that, we're going to ask the school board to take action, but you do not have to make a final decision today. We are going to request that the school board approve the 24 pay 25 levy at the maximum. As in previous years, we're requesting approval at the maximum to provide maximum flexibility for the school board and for the district to allow our staff to continue to work with MDE and finalize that data to ensure its accuracy. We will bring the final levy back with an exact dollar amount to the penny in December. Oops. And I'll turn it back to you.
All right. So is there a motion to approve the preliminary 2024 pay 2025 levy at the maximum as presented?
So moved.
Moved by Dr. Grady. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Director Prince. Any discussion? John, can you tell me again the per pupil we get for levies? It was 2,100 something.
For the operating capital, it's 21, or I mean, excuse me, our operating referendum is 21.77 and a little bit of change, 21 cents, something like that.
And we still, per pupil, it's per pupil
That-
unit, correct? Not per student?
Per adjusted pupil unit, yep. And what that means is if you're at pre-K, we get about 0.5 per pupil. From first grade through 6th grade, I believe, we get 1, and from 7th through 12, we get 1.2. So it's weighted with the understanding that it just costs more to operate higher levels of grades, and so they flex it a little bit for us.
Thank you. That's what I wanted to clarify for everyone. All right, any other questions or discussion?
Yeah, that's what I always say. So it was interesting because I was talking with some city council members, and the cities set a budget and they levy for their budget. For us, it is, as John outlined, a number of different elements. It is tightly governed and regulated by the state. There is the state allocations. There are their requirements for our share of those allocations. So later on, we'll see that lovely line item that has all the X's that show what we are required to do. And so, but it's also the result of our choices. So our choices with the bond referendum and the support of the residents of our community as well. So it's a combination of what the community has authorized us to do, the decisions this board has made leading up to this. This is kind of lagging those decisions and what the state decisions are. So it's the combination of all those things. So it's very pleasant when we see that end number be much smaller than maybe in other years as all of those shift. And kind of in talking with other local elected folks, we know that Hennepin County is coming in at 5.5, Maple Grove at 6.96. I haven't seen Brooklyn Parks yet, but when the residents, when you get your tax statement, you'll see all of those components that impact you. And so being able to be the smallest contributor of that is definitely another good thing for us.
And I would even say, kind of piggybacking along that, the roughly 0.5% that we're expecting that number to be, when you offset that with the growth of the district, I can't make promises to anyone, but I actually anticipate most people to be either completely flat or a decrease in the school portion of your property taxes. And we'll be able to provide a little more information on that in December that actually charts out the rough value of your house and so forth. But it's very favorable numbers for us, so it's nice to see when you see some big numbers in other places.
Yes. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, John. Our next action item is the recommendation for approval, the agreement on the terms and conditions of employment between the Independent School District 279 School Board and school executives, July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2025. Information will be shared by Amy Moore, General Counsel. Amy?
Thank you. The School Executives is a group of 8 employees comprised of associate superintendents and executive directors. The agreement contains language changes to reflect current district practices. In addition, changes have been made to compensation and conditions, group insurance, leaves of absence, memoranda of understanding, sections, terms and conditions. In the compensation conditions section, language was modified to include a 5% increase to base salary in year 1, 3% in year 2. This is consistent with other groups that you have approved. The ranges were also increased by 9.3% to the minimum and maximum salary ranges. In addition, salary advancement has been changed to pay for performance and will be paid as a stipend instead of adding on to the base salary. Work conditions, second section was changed from 225 workday to 260/261, depending on the year workdays. In this same section, the employees will receive 12 paid holidays and 25 vacation days. Deferred compensation, district contribution was increased from $2,000 to $4,000. The group insurance section, employees receive district contributions as outlined in the contract that is posted. And the salary investment outlined above, or outlined in its entirety, is consistent with the financial parameters established by the school board for the 23-25 contract negotiation. The 2-year agreement results in a 9.95% total package increase. The total additional financial investment is $339,056 over the term of the agreement. So it's our recommendation that you approve the agreement on this contract before you.
Thank you, Amy. Is there a motion to approve the agreement on the terms and conditions of employment between Independent School District 279 School Board and school executives, July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2025?
So moved.
Motion by Director Douglas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Director Mitchell. Any discussion? I just want to say on behalf of the board, thank you for coming to an agreement on this. We really appreciate your work. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. Motion passes 6-0. And again, thank you, executive directors, for the hard work that you put in. We know you work many, many, many hours over your time. The final action item is gifts to the district. Is there a motion to approve the gifts to the district totaling $10,094.55?
So moved.
Motion by Director Douglas. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Director Prince. Any discussion? We all say thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. And that motion passes 6-0. Our next agenda item is informational items. General Counsel Amy Moore will share the information for the first reading of Policy and Procedure 432, Teacher Involuntary Transfer Process. Policy 441, Digital Technologies and Digital Systems Acceptable Use. Policy 640, Class Size and Student Teacher Staffing Ratio. Policy and Procedure 652, Instructional and Library Materials Selection and Reevaluation. And Policy and Procedure 507, Corporal Punishment and Prone Restraint. Amy, you got a job ahead of you.
We do, but we're here for it. So as you said, first reading. These policies will be posted then for the next month and up for board vote next October at the regular meeting. So we'll start with Policy 432, Teacher Involuntary Transfer Process. You see it's a very short policy and is covered in our collective bargaining agreements, and that's why we're recommending this for repeal. Any questions? I'll kind of go policy by policy. So that also has a procedure then that would be repealed. Policy 441, Digital Technologies and Digital Systems. We have Executive Director Paternos here as well if there are any questions. But the main thrust behind the changes for this policy was to put it in language about how to be a responsible user of technology versus the don't. And then updating some kind of pieces that were outdated and reflecting some legislative changes. I know you've had the policies and been able to go through them. Is there anything in particular that you have questions on?
I have a question. One of the questions is, so this is in personnel, the 400 series, but some of this also applies to student use. And so I'm wondering if this is the appropriate category for it. So that's just something that I think maybe policy should evaluate, where the appropriate series that this policy falls under. And then also that I am wondering about a little bit of crossover between this is the digital technologies acceptable use, but then it kind of crosses over a little bit with like cell phone use policy for students. And so I'm wondering if policy committee will be kind of looking at these in conjunction with each other at some point, and particular with regards to like social media in the expectation piece, because social media is used as a tool for staff to engage with students regarding certain activities like GroupMe and WhatsApp and things like that. And so that's one area that I'm wondering about as we move forward and look at those things. And then I have one other question, which is for the CIPA, I don't know, CIPA.
Child Internet Protection Act.
Thank you, that act, yes. So my question about that is, sorry, I'm trying to pull it back up again where it went. So some of that, I guess what I'm wondering about that piece of it is if that crosses over into the 652 policy that we're reviewing tonight, because we deliver instruction via the internet and digital mannerisms, and so those two things kind of go together. And so I'm wondering, like, has that been looked at together? Are we going to incorporate that aspect into the instructional material selection? And the reason I ask that is partly because of the discussion that, comments that were brought forward by community members tonight, which made me think about this internet piece, which specifically prohibits explicit content. And the way that children may be impacted by the use of those materials. And so I'm really wondering, like, where are we going with that? Has that been evaluated yet? Is policy committee looking at that? Do we need to bring both of these back for further evaluation? So that's kind of a lot, but.
So I can share, having sat on policy
Thank you.
committee, you know, we have had a lot of discussion for many months,
Yeah.
particularly on the instructional side of things. So I would say we have not been able to, you know, make these completely perfect to every piece of input or every situation. So I think the spirit of these improvements was to advance good, solid policy forward, and we'll continue to work on them. I don't think that the policy committee, I think with the work we've done so far, I'm not sure that we should be sending things back to policy at this point. I'd say that those are really great questions to keep working toward and building into our continued work. And even in policy committee, when we discussed moving forward the 652, we had the discussion. That doesn't mean we stop working on it, that we can continue to refine, and especially with further input that will come through the reading process as well. So those are really good questions. We did not explicitly look at the technology components or cross-reference those with 652, but I think we had the spirit of those conversations in policy. I don't know if any other policy committee members want to add to that.
No, I just want to say we heard you. Great questions, great concerns. I think with all of these policies, we've all operated under the assumption that these would come back to policy committee at some point for further discussion. So I think just given, you know, we can only talk about each of these policies so much in policy committee. So incremental progress, and, you know, continuing to take in that feedback and make improvements as we go.
On the question of social media and the use of apps, I don't know if there wanted to be any remarks on that and the work that's being done to kind of monitor systems of adults communicating with students. I don't know.
So we do have pieces in our employee handbook about our expectations of staff interacting with students. We have discussed, and it is potentially bringing forth looking at a social media policy in particular. We just haven't gotten to that yet. In relation to cell phone policy, we will actually be bringing forth the cell phone policy that's currently in place and any updates to that. To the extent that you know, Child Internet Protection Act is implicated in any curriculum that happens, that's of course going to be followed. So they act together to the extent that it would apply. I hear your comment about oddly numbered, and there's some other policies too. And I think as we continue through our cycle of review and maybe get to the 500s, some of them we have kind of broken out, but there are some that are just naturally probably going to be a bit awkward, and maybe calling that out more as we get to them. But I don't know if there's anything else.
I would just say historical context on that. The last time acceptable use policy was reviewed, there was a 400 series and a 600 series, and at that time we merged to build a comprehensive acceptable use policy that applied to both students and staff, which is how it ended up landing in 441 at the time. But I think it's, you know, a good question to kind of wonder where it might fit long term.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. So the next is policy 640, class size and student-teacher staffing ratio. Again, a very short policy that is covered in our collective bargaining agreement. So we're recommending this one for repeal as well. And policy 652, and you will see we've included procedures 652A and B, as well as the form that would be utilized for requests for reevaluation. And then we've also included guidelines for audience members and guidelines for the committee, just so you could have a full understanding of everything that we've kind of been discussing and trying to update. I can go through every change, and I will look to you as to what you think would make sense now. You've had the materials. There's been a lot of back and forth. You can see the red lines. I think we've landed in a place that recognizes a lot of discussion back and forth, and this is one way for us to kind of move forward some improvements to the policy that hasn't been reviewed for some time now. So maybe I'll pause and look for questions, and if you do want to go through things, we can certainly go page by page.
So the policy committee's seen this. I guess I defer to the other board members who are looking at it more in depth for the first time, if you want to go line by line, or if you'd rather.
I don't need to have it read to me line by line, because I've read through it, but if other board members do, I do have questions, though.
Okay, we can go to questions then.
Yeah. Anybody else want to go first, or?
No.
Okay, so, and I did speak with Amy Moore about most of these questions, actually, prior to the meeting, but I wanted to bring them up for policy committee to consider as well. So regarding policy 652 and procedures A and B, I do have some thoughts and questions that I hope will be considered for discussion. The revisions proposed in policy 652 eliminate language regarding producing materials, and I do recall having a conversation about the removal of that language in reference to materials that are physically produced in the district, and that's no longer a common practice. But while we don't mass produce printed instructional materials, I am wondering about electronic materials that are created to supplement instruction and how that is factored into this policy, if there was discussion around that. And I'll just keep going through. I don't need like answers to all of these questions right now. So moving on to policy 652 section V or 5F6, which is library materials shall meet high standards of quality in one or more of these categories. And there are 7 categories. I'm specifically looking at category number 6, which is high interest for intended audiences. So I'm wondering, what does high interest mean? And is there a threshold for that? And furthermore, are we referring to intended audience of the book or our student population? And if we're referring to our student population, which is what I think is the intent, how do we determine the age range of that audience? Moving on to section 6, regarding individual student access to specific library materials, the policy reads that the school district shall take reasonable steps to fulfill this request. When a parent or guardian has asked for specific materials to be restricted from their personal students, I'm wondering what steps are currently available and if there are plans to implement a specific process or procedure for those requests. And then those are my questions for the policy itself. Looking at procedure 652A, I would like to have discussion around a few potential language changes for clarity and to ensure that we aren't placing the burden of responsibility on a single person. Under the general statement A, 1A and B, there's so many like 1A, B, 2, 3, so I do apologize, but let me just pull it forward here so I can remember exactly what it is. So this is the general criteria for selection. Under 1, instruction instructional and library materials must be evaluated on the basis of the purpose for selection set forth in policy 652, etc. There is subcategories A through F. C, D, E, and F are concrete. They're not dependent upon anything else. However, A and B state, I'll just read what they say. They're denoted as one or the other. Or I suppose it could be and, but it just says or. And so my question is, Section A states instructional and library materials will have favorable recommendations based on examination by district instructional personnel, or, and then B states instructional and library materials will have favorable reviews found in standard review sources. So what I'm wondering is if we are unintentionally reducing a check and balance by using this specific language, and it would help me to understand how we're defining district instructional personnel. The way I read it initially would make me think that it means an individual district staff person, any staff person that provides instruction or is involved in the process of choosing instructional materials. And if that isn't the case, please let me know. But if that isn't the case, I'm wondering if we should refine that language to specify which personnel roles or teams we're referring to a bit more directly, so as to be clear that no one individual is solely responsible for the selection of materials. And if we are talking about any individual person who provides instruction, I suggest that we consider changing the language or separating that, separating instructional materials and library materials in this particular instance, or I guess coming up with some check and balance, because I don't think any individual person should be solely responsible for the selection of materials. I guess ultimately is what I'm getting to. I think that poses a problem both for that person and as well as people receiving the content. So then moving on to section C, I'm sorry, I have a few, but I am almost done. In procedure 652A, section C, B, I noted that the materials review plan is supposed to include both DPAC and the Human Sexuality Advisory Committee as part of the review process. And in order to provide them the opportunity to review the materials and provide input. And that has not been a consistent standard practice, but it is an important part of the process. And so I'm wondering how we can ensure that we're consistently following this procedure going forward. And that was all I had for 652A. And with 652B, and I talked to Amy about this, I noted just a couple of like inconsistencies in the way that we worded certain phrases from the policy to this procedure. And the example is just the order in which like students, parents, guardians, residents is listed. And so I just suggested that we make that language consistent across documents. But the actual, that's really minor. The concern that I have though is in reviewing this document, there are several places where I feel like we could build in some more transparency in our process, particularly regarding appointed positions. And Amy and I had talked about this. A lot of the positions on the challenge committee are appointed by a specific person. And my concern is that creates a situation where it may appear that the committee is being stacked or that people are being handpicked to have a particular outcome. And so I think that it would be wise for us to consider evaluating some of that language to create a process which is more, number one, more transparent, but also will ensure that it isn't always the same people on every challenge committee. And I understand that there might be some difficulty with that, just finding people who want to participate in the process. One suggestion that I had given is if a principal or assistant principal is required, that maybe we have like a rotation of which building, like if there's a challenge A, then it's Park Center, and challenge B is Osseo, and challenge C is Maple Grove, or some sort of process where we're having a rotation where there isn't any like specific one person that is doing that. And I don't have any like specific language suggestions. I just think that maybe that's kind of a back to the drawing board situation. But also for specifically formal procedures, and that's specifically for formal procedures, by the way, those what the comments were for. But also when selecting the people for the committee, right now it's a single person who selects the participants of the committee. And I think that it should be inclusive also of the Director of Educational Equity and the Director of Learning and Achievement, who are also part of this process in other areas of the reevaluation process. So those are my suggestions. I know there's a lot, but I have written them down if you'd like me to send them to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate the questions. For transparency's sake and clarity, are there any of those questions, I know we can't cover them all, but that we can receive answers for tonight, or clarity, and also just going forward, how will we receive answers to the questions?
Well, like I said, everything will be posted for a month. Typically, what would happen is I would then bring back that to the next board meeting. Given that the level of comment and possible questions are gonna be more than what we typically see. If there was an interest in communicating before then, I can certainly do that, and then make sure that we, from a public standpoint, that they have information as well. I have to think through that. I don't know exactly, but one way would be to basically use then the October meeting to really go through everything, right? And then maybe bringing it back in November for a vote versus October, depending on that. That could be one way of doing it.
Okay, thank you, that would be helpful. I'm open to suggestions, so that'd be helpful.
I wonder, I don't know if a work session would be appropriate for them, but that could be another option to address some of the questions.
That's a good idea.
So dig into it a little more.
No action, it would just be question and answer.
Right, yes, yeah.
Just for those questions.
Right.
Andy, did you want to talk about the production piece of it? Thank you.
Sure. So again, Andy Bedeau, Coordinator of Digital Learning and Instructional Media. And Heather, you sort of already alluded to the answer. You were talking about why production was sort of struck out. And it's a practice that we no longer do. So we have a publications and a print shop. So in the past, even probably prior to me, we did a lot more of creating and making our own, textbook materials, things like that. So to your point though, like if materials are created digitally, or even if people are creating, print materials, they would still fall under the supplementary process.
As part of this process?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. In regards to high interest, I think in our guidelines, we talk about utilizing Merriam-Webster for what things mean. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, how you would, high interest for intended audience, what does it mean? Is it student, based on the students or the age?
Yeah, I just just thinking how I interpret that, a couple, just off the top of my head. Dogman series, so what are things that kids are wanting to, have in their hands right away? So obviously things that they're asking for. I also think about high-low. So we have students who are reading it at a lower level, and we still want them to be high interest books and topics that they're interested in, so they're not, babyish or, seemingly being, taught or read down to, so.
I will just touch on the parents currently in regards to if they have concerns about their students and materials, they can talk to the principal or the media specialist. I think that's happening already informally. Putting something up on our website regarding that is something we can consider. We want to recognize that different media centers will operate differently, but really it can just be sending an email to the library media specialist would start that process.
Yeah, we did have quite a bit of discussion in policy about, how to execute on it, and we know that that's kind of all the supplementary actions and internal work of the district, so we'll probably have high interest to kind of know how that comes together, but I know Director Brooks also brought up a lot of those concerns in policy, and how do we actually ensure that we can live up to that promise to parents, and what are the options that we have available to us. So we discussed it a lot, and I do really appreciate the questions. I think this is a topic that we need to be thorough on and go line by line, and that's what we've been doing for many sessions in policy. So I think that's important that the board members do kind of have that level of scrutiny and ask the questions that need to be asked. I appreciate that.
I think that's part of what makes this difficult, is not being a part of that process. I don't know what you guys have talked about,
sure.
so I have a lot of questions.
Absolutely. We do kind of come back. So for the public, as this is out, it's the reading. Folks can go to our district website, go on to the About Us School Board, or About Us Policies and Procedures, or is it School Board Policies and Procedures, and there is a place to provide feedback there. So definitely invite the public to do that. These materials are all published and available for everybody to look at. I think the policy committees worked really hard to balance many different viewpoints and to be very concrete. And I'd say, even with the state legislature adding the language about not be able to make sure I read this right. Library materials shall not be banned, removed, or access restricted based solely on its viewpoint or the messages, ideas, or opinions expressed. That's always, I think, been in our work in our policy. That's already been ruling in case law by the Supreme Court. We have a list of what standards of quality are. So I think that did not, in my opinion, dramatically affect this policy or the work of our policy committee, that we're still focused on what does meet high standards. And I think that that was the spirit of our conversation, is to balance all of those different perspectives and concerns. So I think that, again, continues to be a work in process and in discussion, but I think that this felt like a good policy to keep moving forward at this stage. And we streamlined a ton of the different steps, and I know Amy's worked hard to create more efficient forms and processes with the book challenge process as well. So I appreciate the hard work that the district's done to be responsive. That's all I got.
I just want to thank the policy committee for working so hard on all of the, and I know we have one more policy to talk about, but on all the policies, particularly this one, because it's a difficult one. And I appreciate the question about transparency and one person being in charge of picking, because for both sides of that deal, you don't want to be a person picking someone and being accused of stacking or unintentionally stacking or any of that. So I appreciate that. And our next policy.
I'd like to.
Oh, go ahead.
I have a couple of things to say. Thomas, did you on this policy?
No, go ahead.
Okay. We have put a lot of work on this policy in the policy committee, and I'm really proud of the discussions that we have had. And here's what I think works with policy. Parents have the right to ask a teacher or a librarian to not allow their child pick out a book. Parents are allowed to ask for a building review to decide whether or not that book is appropriate in that setting. Parents can then elevate it to the district level for another check and balance against whether or not that particular piece of material is appropriate for children. And let me clarify that this policy is about library book choices. Now, if we all remember what libraries are, they're a place for everything. And these books are not required, they're available. Here's what doesn't work for me in this policy as it is written now. I'm not comfortable with any community member asking for a book review because this is a parent's decision and parents should be in charge of making those decisions. Even more so, I am even less comfortable with the continuing book challenges coming to the school board. Here's why. Last June, we enacted more pieces of the LGBTQIA+ resolution. And there were a small group of community members who shared their concerns about the impacts that this would have on their children. I think many of them were all heard and very well listened to and sympathized with their concerns. However, the district has a mission to support every single student, no matter what their identity is. I think this small group of parents, some of them were very frustrated that our district upheld our mission to support every single student. Again, on books that are available for some students, if they want it, at the library. These book bans have come after LGBTQ students, erasing their identities, and they have not stopped there. The next book that might come to our board is Toni Morrison. We talk a lot about what's age appropriate or what's age appropriate, but I can't think of anything more inappropriate than working to seek to remove a book of a pillar of African American literature from our students in schools. Again, this is a book that's available to them as a choice for those who need it and those who need to connect with it. Because once a small group of people come after one marginalized group, they always come after another.
Point of order, are these comments related to the policy or personal preferences and conversation that you want to bring to the board?
I'll let you continue to make your points, Tanya, to the extent that you are willing to, and then I'm happy to start my discussion over.
I think it's wise that our board keep our comments specific to our issue and not have conjecture about intentions of community members.
Point noted.
Continue.
I know everybody's here to help kids and wants to support them. And I understand that there are a lot of people who are fearful of seeing marginalized students and identities supported in schools. But more than once, folks have come and quoted Gays Against Groomers, which is a hate group designated by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And once again, they started with attacking and erasing LGBTQ identities, and now they're on to Toni Morrison. Thank you. I will not be supporting this policy as it is written.
I have a comment. I'm sorry, we just have to clarify for the record here. This policy is very specifically in the title, instructional and library material selection. That means this policy is not just for library books, so that's a really inaccurate representation of what this is. Second of all, our taxpayers pay for those instructional materials and library books. They 100% have the right to be a part of the process. Let's just get that straight. This is not your political platform. This is a policy meant for our community to participate in our process, and they all have a right to participate in it, period.
Thank you, Heather, for sharing your point of view.
It's not a point of view, it's a fact.
So again, the policy committee has worked really hard to bring this forward constructively, so I hope we can keep the constructive focus moving forward through the second reading and continuing on. So thanks again to everybody who's put a lot of work into this. Really appreciate it.
Okay, the last policy, policy 507, corporal punishment and prone restraint. It is updated to reflect the legislative changes that came about after the last session about SROs explicitly not being school district employees and updating those language. So are there any questions regarding that last policy?
And my understanding is that's been in our contract with SROs.
It's been in our contract, correct?
So it's, yeah.
We have been in a good place with that. That is the last one, so these will all be published, and we'll see how the comments come in and kind of decide and communicate with you how we will move this forward then.
Thank you. At this time, the board will take a brief recess and then reconvene in the forum room for a closed session. The session will be closed pursuant to Minnesota Statute 13D.03 for labor negotiations with AESPs, confidential support specialists, custodians, ESPs, hourly technical, Kids Stop instructors, registered nurses, and licensed practical nurses, and school nutrition. Basically the people that are the glue to our district. Is there a motion to recess the regular meeting for 10 minutes and reconvene in the forum room for a closed session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Director Prince and second by Director Douglas. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say nay. All right, this meeting is recessed at 8:12 p.m. We are all going to collect our thoughts, do some deep breathing, and we will adjourn at the conclusion of the closed session.